Hey Paisanos, it is I, Mickey Saturn, back at last. I gotta start out, I guess, by apologizing for the long break in videos. Like, I got busy with one thing, and it's one thing after another, and then it's the holidays, and and then, like after a while, after the summer or whatever, when I started going back to school and all this, it had been so long, and I was like, do I want this to be my first video back, this game, or this topic of conversation? Surely there's something better that will happen next week that'll be more interesting. I'll just wait a few more days and, well, blah, blah, blah. And I just totally fell out of the routine, and all this time in the back of my mind, I gotta get back to making videos, I gotta, keep that going. I don't want that to be a thing that I did for like 6 months and then never did again. So anyway, I'm back at last, yeah, I gotta apologize for the break. Honestly, that might happen again in the future. I don't know. I'm kind of busy with all kinds of stuff. And so, this is like a thing I do as a hobby on the side, and sometimes it has to take a back burner to other stuff I'm working on. But hopefully, I can get back into the habit of trying to do at least a video every week or so. Maybe more, I don't know. But, yeah, and I do have some new stuff coming up that, I'll tease you with a little bit. I've got some new Have You Played videos, some rare NES games. I got a series of videos I've been wanting to do about Konami's Sega Genesis games, because I think Konami really killed it on the Genesis. But, yeah, that's coming up. I got a couple other ideas as well. And also maybe some kind of top 10 list type stuff. I actually got like a request to do some of that stuff from a couple people. So that was something I'd been wanting to do, but those are a little more work if I'm going to get like good gameplay clips from different games or whatever. But anyway, all of that is stuff that's coming. But what I came here today to talk about, and what seems like a fittingly interesting topic, to discuss, are the sales results coming out of this holiday season for the different platforms. It's pretty interesting. As you all know, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 launched in November. We now know, through December 28th, the PS4 sold, Jesus, 4.2 million units globally, and the Xbox One sold 3 million units. So, a combined sales of 7.2 million. That's really high. So basically I have like two takes on these numbers. The first take is, that's a lot. In absolute terms, I don't know of any other hardware transition year in which the two next-gen systems in like 6 weeks, essentially. I mean, neither of these were out 1st of November. I think the PS4 was November 15th, right? So literally 6 weeks. 4 weeks, last 2 weeks of November, 4 weeks of December, 6 weeks, 7.2 million people already have the new hardware. I don't think that's ever happened before. Or if it has, only barely. Maybe the PS2 or something had like a similar adoption rate. But for the most part, that's like the fastest transition to new hardware ever. Okay, but that's looking at absolute numbers, and not taking into account that the industry as a whole has grown, and more people play games than than played games in 1999 and 2000 when the PS2 came out, and stuff like that. So as a percentage of people currently invested in gaming, as a percentage of people who own current-gen systems, I don't know that it's really that different from other console transitions, because the PS3 and the 360 and the Wii all sold huge numbers. Like, they all basically, what? The Wii is like 100 million. The PS3 is up to like 70-something million, right? And I think the 360's in the same spot. So that's like 300 million consoles. That's unprecedented. There was a time when people thought there wasn't enough interest in video games to support 3 consoles. I remember when the Dreamcast was coming out, people were saying, oh, can there be 3 big consoles? And then when the Xbox comes out, people were like, there can't be 4 big consoles. There's no way. And sure enough, Sega was on its way out, like, immediately, There's just no way that 4 consoles were going to get supported. So, anyway, the point I'm getting at is, it makes it hard to parse these numbers. Because it's like, we know they're big in the sense that this is more than previous generations have sold, but that doesn't necessarily tell us that the trajectory of growth is continuing. And the other thing we don't know, and this is, I think, the big thing, because this is what I've been telling everybody who's been going crazy about how great these numbers are. I've been saying, what we really don't know is how many people want one but didn't get one, which is a huge deal. Because it's, in a way, not surprising that they would sell outstandingly. There haven't been consoles for 6 or 7 years, you know? New consoles, I'm trying to say. And, you know, it's just a lot of hype, a lot of pent-up demand. People have been ready for these for a long time. Everybody knew they were coming. Everyone had time to save up their money. As far as I have heard, there were no hardware shortages to speak of. Might have sold out here and there, but there were no, like, sustained shortages like what happened with the Wii. So I gotta assume that everybody that wanted one was able to get one. It's gotta be practically everyone. And that, you know, is huge, right? Because that's a big question that we can't really know the answer to yet. But is a huge question, because if it turns out that, absent some killer app that hasn't been announced yet, if you're not sold on Titanfall and Destiny or something, absent some new game that you don't know about yet, if 90% of the people that want these consoles already bought one, then that means that by next November, they won't even be past 8 million. They're already at 7.2 million. But if that's 90% of the demand, that means there's only 700,000 people who are going to kind of pick one up here and there over the next year. You know, that's an extreme case. I don't really expect that, but you see what I'm getting at. Like, it's just hard to know what's really going on. And it's worth remembering that this is sort of what happened to the Wii U. The Wii U had pretty good, not 7 million, not 4 million, not 3 million even, but relatively good opening Christmas. I think it sold like 2 million something globally or something like that. And then nobody bought one for the rest of the year. Because it was like, all the people that liked Nintendo and just knew they wanted the new Nintendo system, they bought one right away. But everyone else was waiting for the game that was really going to sell them on it. And the longer they waited, the more developers who make games were saying, man, no one's buying this, we don't want to make games for this. And so the longer the wait becomes, you know, now you're waiting on, like, you know, essentially one developer, Nintendo, who has to justify the entire platform with their one development studio that's smaller than Ubisoft by itself. That's, you know, impossible. And, you know, fortunately for people who just bought PlayStations and Xboxes, I don't think that's going to happen to either of those systems. I mean, companies have to support somebody. You know, and PlayStation and Xbox are who they've chosen to, you know, that's who they're throwing their chips in with. So there will be games coming out, I guess. But it still remains to be seen, in my eyes, how many people really want new consoles, and how many people want them sort of, but they're like waiting for the, you know, the perfect game, or they're waiting for prices to drop because they don't want them at this price, versus how many people maybe at this time now feel like they're satisfied with just Steam. Because I think the console killer is Steam, in my eyes. It used to be that PC gaming was like a big hassle compared to console gaming, and that is increasingly less true. Partly because console gaming is a bigger hassle than it used to be, so it's like they're equalizing in a negative way. But Steam is easy to use compared to what you used to have to do. And I just, you know, wonder about that, you know, especially with these new consoles being, you know, very powerful, but not that powerful. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're really interested in cutting edge hardware, you aren't even looking at a PS4 or Xbox One anyway. So, you know, all of that is sort of the question. And for this reason, my point of view is that the more interesting numbers are going to be the numbers in January, February, March. Because that's when we're going to start to see if one or both or neither of these systems have real staying power, or are they really striking a chord with a general audience? You know, are people coming out of Christmas hearing about how cool Twitch streaming on the PS4 is, and so all these people that didn't know they wanted one so badly are suddenly deciding in January and February, yes, I want one, I must have one. You know, I'm going to have to get one right now. You know, that's what you need to see, right? That's what you want to see. What I think, though, may happen is people are kind of holding off, waiting for price drops, waiting for more games in the library, waiting for hardware issues that seem to crop up with modern machines all the time to get ironed out. You know, and I have a feeling that the sales are going to drop quite sharply in January, February, March, and it will give us a more clear picture of just how strong demand for this type of console remains. Especially, you know, you got to remember, Steam Box is coming out. Who's that for? And how is that going to shake things up? And what about the rumor, persistent rumor, that Apple is going to be releasing something? Who knows, you know, what form that could take. There's also the fact that Sony just unveiled, I wasn't really going to talk about this, and I'm not totally, I don't have notes or anything on this, but there's also the fact that Sony just unveiled their streaming service, and that's interesting. PlayStation Now, I think it's called. And they're saying they're going to be able to stream it to like Bravia TVs, like a smart TV and stuff. You won't even have to have a PlayStation. And that you know, maybe that'll be the future, right? That could be the form that the death of the console, quote unquote, takes. Anyway, that's my take on all of this sales data that's going around right now. And if you have a different take, by all means leave a comment, and I will politely and in a gentlemanly fashion argue with you. And if you totally agree with me, you should also leave a comment, because that's cool. No, I don't know. Anyway, until next time, paisanos.